Okay, so Hare Krishna. So let's begin with a small prayer. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Vadi Paschatya Desha Dharine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radhara Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kam karoti vachalam bhangam langayate girim yatrupadam Vande Shri Gurum Deenadarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So last week we saw chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita. I will just give a small recap of the session. So we saw two different processes of acquiring the absolute knowledge. Anybody remembers what those two processes are?
Upward and downward.
Yeah, you were almost there. Exact term is ascending and descending.
Ascending. Yes, Prabhuji.
Very nice. So ascending process means something which we make our own personal effort trying to understand the absolute truth by studying all the different scriptures. So you need to go through all the Vedic scriptures, and on our own we need to try and understand the absolute truth, which is a tedious process because the Vedic scriptures are vast compared to ocean. So to read and understand the entire Vedic scripture, it is not possible in one lifetime. So the easiest process that Krishna is recommending is the descending process, which means the knowledge which was received by the pure devotees or the spiritual master or guru. So they are the ones who understand the absolute truth because they learnt it from authorized personalities, their own guru. So when this knowledge is descending down, coming down from Supreme Lord Krishna, and when it reaches us through proper parampara. Parampara is nothing but the chain of disciplic succession. That chain should be an unbroken one, and it should begin with Krishna and end with the current Acharya in the parampara. So when we hear from such an authentic source, who is called a spiritual master, so then our job becomes much more easier. So we need not break our head, we need not study the entire Vedic scriptures. We can merely go and ask the authorized person about the absolute truth. So I'll just give one very nice pastime or story that happened with Srila Prabhupada. During Srila Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada, as you know, he wrote many Vedic scriptures, including Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, so many other scriptures. He wrote translation and commentaries. So while he was writing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1 translation and purport, his disciples, Western disciples from the US, they were helping him by drawing very nice pictures. Now, if you happen to be in any of the ISKCON centers, you could see very nice pictures of depicting Lord Krishna's pastimes. Have any of you seen that? Any such pictures?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right? So many nice pictures where Krishna opens his mouth and he shows the entire cosmic manifestation to his mother Yashoda, Krishna with his cows. So many nice pictures which are drawn by devotees, isn't it?
Yes.
So those are drawn by disciples of Srila Prabhupada. In one such instance, for a particular Bhagavatam page, the disciple had to draw a picture of Paramatma the Lord is sitting in all our heart as Paramatma, isn't it? Super soul. So this disciple had a doubt. He went and asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, how should I depict the Paramatma within our heart? I have not seen him. Is he in a sitting posture or is he standing? How does he look like? No, he went and asked Srila Prabhupada. And as soon as the devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada had a big smile on his face. Prabhupada said, we saw in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? Where the Dhyana yogis, they go to the forest and meditate on Paramatma. You remember?
Yes.
So you have to go to a secluded place and do meditation for thousands of years to actually perceive Paramatma within our heart. It is so difficult. So here is this innocent disciple of Prabhupada who went and asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, how does Paramatma look like? Is he sitting or standing? Then Prabhupada had a smile and he said, many yogis are, doing a lot of tapasya to even get a glimpse of Paramatma. Here you are, such an innocent fellow. You are coming and asking your spiritual master how a Paramatma looks like. And I really commend you because this process is very simpler. You don't have to break your head. You can just come and ask an authorized person, bona fide person, and I will be able to reveal how a Paramatma is. And I can tell you, Paramatma is someone who is in a sitting posture, and Prabhupada gave a sketch of how Paramatma looks like. That's such an easy process, isn't it? You need not break your head. You need not go and perform so much of austerities. Simply go and approach an authentic person, he will be able to reveal us. So, descending process is always the simple process. So, next we saw different set of people. So, basically, 4 kinds of people who will not come to Krishna, who are against Krishna, and we also saw 4 kinds of people who are favorable to Krishna, who wanted to approach Krishna. Namam dukkritino mooda prabhadyante naradamaha maya aparita jnana asurim bhavam ashritaha. So in one of the verse we saw that. So basically mooda, fool, rascal, who is illusioned. So these 4 categories of people who don't approach Krishna. And who are the 4 categories of people who approach Krishna? Artho, artharthi, jignasu, jnani cha, baradarsama. So basically those who are in need of wealth, who are into material distress, those who are into, those who are very curious to know Krishna, and finally those who wanted to know the absolute truth. Right? Artho, artharthi, jignasu, jnani. These are the 4 categories of people who generally approach Krishna. So, and finally we saw how becoming a devotee of Krishna is not very tough, provided we are simple and we are not complicated. Meaning, if we are simple at heart, without any tinge of enviousness or pride or any of those bad qualities, and if we can, if we are, if we have gotten rid of all our sinful activities and reactions, then that person is eligible to become a devotee of Lord Krishna. Right? And I was also explaining how Krishna has put so many rules and regulations. If you want to become a devotee of Krishna, then you have to surrender, you have to give up all your sinful activities and so on. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful. When Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years back, he understood that people in this age of Kali, they are most fallen. They don't have so much of good qualities. They have manda buddhi. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood our present condition. So he gave a lot of concessions. So he said, you simply chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, become my devotee. And all your bad qualities will automatically go away. Chetadarpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagni nirvarpanam. Shreya Kairavas Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Vardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatmastapanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, Krishna Nama is so powerful that it can actually cleanse our heart. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Marjanam means cleaning. Cheto means our consciousness or our heart. Darpana, meaning it is actually going to clean our heart. Which is going to clean our heart? Bhagavan name, Nama. Krishna Nama has so much of power that it can actually cleanse our heart. Right? If you open your heart, just like how the doctors do surgical procedure, if somebody opens our heart and sees all the bad qualities, kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, so then nobody would like to interact with the other person. In Kali Yuga, all of us have all these bad qualities. And in this Kali, because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birth, all these bad qualities can immediately be vanquished merely by chanting this holy name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Right? So that is the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these are some of the points from chapter 7 session. In case if there are any questions, we can take, but otherwise we will proceed with the next chapter. Okay, so can I proceed further?
Yes, Ramesh.
So today we are entering into chapter 8, quite an interesting chapter. Hope you can see my screen.
Yes, Ramesh.
Attaining the Supreme. That's the chapter heading given by Srila Prabhupada, English translation. Okay. So this gives the overview of the chapter 7. We just discussed a while back, so I'm not going to cover this section. Let's get into the topic for today, chapter 8. Arjuna, as usual, is going to begin with a question, set of questions. So what are those questions? We will have a look in a while. And Krishna is going to speak about death, the final examination. Right? So how many of us like to face an examination? How many of us had a liking? I'm not seeing any hand raised. That means
No.
none of us would be hoping to write an exam, right? Whenever we think of exam which we wrote during our college and school days, automatically we get a feeling of butterflies, flying in our stomach, isn't it? We don't like to write an examination because it's not such a good feeling, especially when we are not prepared, right?
Yes.
It is probably the case in most of the time, unfortunately. Right. So death is the final examination. And on a funny note, my daughter who is studying in her primary school in Chennai, she was actually having an examination a few months back. Because she is with us, so we have taught her some of the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, and she also learned quite a bit of slokas from Bhagavad Gita. Her name is Kishori, and my wife, she was trying to push her that she needs to study for the exam because the next day she was having an exam, and then in a in an unexpected way, she came to her and told, Mom, why are you bothered so much about this exam? This is not the final examination. So we all need to face the final examination in the form of death. And we can remember Krishna, then that is success of our life. Why you are so bothered about this examination? My wife was shocked. Whatever classes that, no, my wife also used to take a lot of classes. Almost on a daily basis, she takes Bhagavad classes. So she was shocked that this girl apparently was hearing to her class, and this point struck hard in her heart that of course she is giving a wrong excuse for not studying properly. As a child, she needs to study. So that's what we emphasized. But the point that she was making was quite true. We are all so bothered and perplexed about our current problems in life. How am I going to face my school exam, entrance examination, college examination, interview, right? So many tests or examination that we need to pass through. These are, of course, needed as long as we are living in this world. There is no doubt. But there is something which all of us have to face. And that is called in the scripture as the final examination. Death is the final exam. Why is death called the final exam? We will come to know because Krishna elaborately discusses about that in this chapter. Yeah, so screen not scrolled. Are you not able to see my screen?
No, Prabhu.
Okay, let me reshare.
Yes.
How about now? Is it visible?
Yes, Prabhu.
Sorry, I didn't know that you are not able to see this.
Prabhuji, earlier one also we saw. Earlier one
Sorry?
which was there. The previous one also we saw. It was visible.
Great. So I was just talking from this slide. The second section is all about death. And subsequently, Krishna is speaking about attaining the supreme. What is the difference between material world and spiritual world? So Krishna belongs to the spiritual world. That place is called Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavana. Anyone here knows the key difference between the world that we are living in, called the material world, and the spiritual world? Anybody knows?
The 4 stages of life we have to undergo in material,
Yes.
whereas in spiritual world, it is a permanent one, eternal. We need not undergo all the 4 stages.
Okay, so what are the 4 stages, if you can just elaborate?
Birth, growth, disease, and death.
Okay, birth, death, old age, and disease. Excellent. And in the spiritual world, there is no necessity that we need to undergo that. Why?
We are with the Lord
Because
Krishna.
it's eternal. It's eternal. Material world is temporary. It's eternal.
Right. So spiritual world is eternal, which means once we go there, we no longer become old, we no longer age, right? We are not going to suffer with diseases, nor are we going to be reborn again, right? So that is the nature of a spiritual world. This material world, it is actually compared to a prison cell. So when does one go to a prison?
When you forget about the, when you have false ego,
Okay.
when you forget about Bhagavan and wants to enjoy life, material life.
Right. So when you want to enjoy material life, separate from Krishna, which means I want to gratify my own senses. I want to have an enjoyment on my own. I don't want to serve Krishna. So when we revolt like that, then we are being sent to this material world. Just like when somebody does a criminal activity, right? When somebody does a stealing or kills someone, so on and so forth, then that person is sent to a prison. And what is the intention behind sending to a prison?
To reform.
Why sent to
To
a prison?
reform.
To go back to Godhead by doing bhakti.
So that he can reform Prabhuji for the mistakes he has done.
Yeah, so that he can get reformed, right? The intention is not only to punish that person, but the intention of the government is to reform that individual so that he doesn't commit the same again. He goes back and leads a perfect life. Similarly, Krishna, because we all revolted and we wanted to enjoy separate from him, so he has sent us to this world called material world, and this material world is compared to a prison, right? And actually speaking, prison has 4 walls. Similarly, this material world also has 4 walls. What are those 4 walls? Janma, Mrityu, Jara and Vyadi. Birth, death, old age and disease. Right? So this is compared to 4 walls, which is not so easy to cross over. So here in this section, Krishna is going to explain how somebody can cross over the cycle of repeated cycle of birth, death, old age and so, and finally, Krishna is going to speak about pure devotion. Why pure devotion is the best. Right? So, these are some of the topics that Krishna is going to speak about this chapter. Okay, so, this is from the Gita Mahatmya. I hope some of you in this attended that. Anybody could recollect this verse? Gita Mahatmya, verse number 6.
Prabhuji.
Right? Sounds familiar, isn't it?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
सर्वोपनिषतो कावो दोक्ता गोपाल नंदनः पार्थो वत्स सुधीर्भोक्ता दुक्तं गीतामृतं महत्.
Right. So Krishna is just like a cow,
Oh.
and sorry, the Upanishads are like cow. Krishna is like the cowherd boy milking the cow, and Arjuna is just like a calf.
Okay.
Right. So the milk is not just for calf. Milk is for everyone. Similarly, this Bhagavad Gita is not just for Arjuna. Arjuna is asking these wonderful questions on behalf of all of us. So in that sense, whatever knowledge that Krishna is going to give in this chapter, this is for all of us. And Arjuna with wonderful questions. Let's see what questions he is asking. Can someone read this? If you are comfortable, you can read the verse. Otherwise, translation would be good.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Arjuna ucha kim tad brahma kim adhyatma kim karma purushottama adi bhutam cha kim proktam adi daivam kim uchyate. Arjuna inquired, my dear Lord, O Supreme Person, what is Brahma? What is the Self? What are the fruitive activities? What is this material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Wonderful questions, which unfortunately none of us would be asking because we are in this material conception of life. Here, we also ask many questions. Without Bhagavad Gita, without the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, still we will be asking many questions. What sort of questions? Where is my next food going to come from? Next meal going to come from? What will be my next job? How much can I earn? How can I survive? What sort of family am I going to have? These sort of materialistic questions is what we generally ask. Unfortunately, none of us ask these higher questions. If we are a human being, we are supposed to be asking higher questions. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. What kind of jigyasa or questions are we supposed to be asking? Brahma Jigyasa. What is Brahman? What is Param? What is this individual self? What are the fruitive activities? Who is Krishna? Who is demigod? So Arjuna is asking on our behalf. Right? So this is how 8th chapter is beginning. And then subsequently Arjuna is asking further question. Somebody else can read this as well. Anybody would like to read?
Yes, Prabhuji. Who is the Lord of sacrifice? And how does he live in the body? O Madhusudana. And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death?
Right. So none of us would even want to think about death. Isn't it? How many of us have visited a funeral? Anybody here ever had experience of visiting your near and dear one passing away? Yes, Padma Madaji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
I visited Master.
Right. So would we like to stay there for longer time? Be with the
No.
person who passed away?
No.
No. Why?
We feel sad.
We feel bad. Right. What else? What?
We feel just only a handful of ash will be left over. Whatever this thing we have done,
Right.
so whatever life is like that. We feel life is that much.
Right. Actually, the feeling that we get when we are visiting such a place is unexplainable, isn't it? You feel completely a different sort of experience, isn't it? Which you don't get anywhere else. And as a matter of fact, we don't want to be there for long. Just because the person is nearby, is close to us, we may stay there for some time, probably until the person is buried or burnt, and then we would soon want to come back to our house, isn't it? That's the sort of feeling that we all have. Why? Because none of us want to die. We don't want to even think about our death. Leave alone, we don't want to even think about others' death. Leave alone our own death. Isn't it?
It's Prabhu.
So there are so many institutions which actually teach so-called art of living, right? But Bhagavad Gita is that literature which is actually teaching us the art of dying. We are not born to die like a cat or a dog or a worm or a pig, right? We have found actually, right? So a cat or a dog, it doesn't have any purpose in life. So it only does 4 things. What are the 4 things that animals do generally?
Eating, sleeping, mating, and I forgot the other one, Prabhu.
Defending.
Fighting.
Defending.
Right? So that is something which all the animals do. They eat, they sleep, they find a partner for mating, and they defend themselves using their claws and their teeth, isn't it? So they cannot think beyond eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. Unfortunately, as human beings who are supposed to be elevated than animals, if we are also only thinking about eating, mating, sleeping, and defending, then we are no different from animals. A cat or a dog, it is not going to think about what will happen beyond this life. Of course, it is always afraid of death. It is always thinking about which animal would come and attack him. Right? It is always afraid. It is always in fear, as you can see. if you go on a road, the cat or a dog, it is always fearful. Right? As soon as step out of your house, when a cat sees you, then it will run away because it is fearful. It is always fearing death. But as human beings, we are supposed to be asking questions. How can I avoid death? How can I avoid repeated birth? Right? What will happen beyond death? Am I going to be born again in this material world? If so, as what? What will be my next birth? So these are the sort of questions that we need to be asking. Then only we can call ourselves as human beings. Otherwise, we are no different from animals, unfortunately. Right? So this is a valid question which Arjuna is asking. So the life lesson for all of us, asking a question is a sign of growth. The moment we stop asking questions, then we are not going anywhere. We will only stagnate. Every moment in life, we need to be asking the question. We need to have a goal in life. What is it that I am going to achieve in this life? Am I born in this life to earn a degree, get married, have kids, earn money, become a director of a company, retire, enjoy with my grandchildren, and die? And as soon as we die, we don't carry away anything with us? Is that what we are all meant to be born as? So we need to ask questions. Unfortunately, the modern materialistic education is not allowing us to ask these questions. Our Vedic understanding or Vedic study begins with these questions. Our forefathers have always been asking these sort of questions. Right? Unfortunately, with the invasion of British Empire and so many other empire, we have lost our culture. We don't even ask these basic questions any longer. Only when we study Bhagavad Gita, our interest to ask these sort of spiritual questions are kindled. Right? So the best question that Arjuna has asked is how to attain Krishna at the time of death. Now, why is this question being asked by Arjuna? A very nice answer that we can get is from Mukundamala Stotra. Anybody here who knows or who have heard about this Mukundamala Stotra from the great devotee of Lord by the name King Kulashekara?
Yes,
Anyone
Prabhuji.
here
Yes,
knows?
yes, Prabhuji. Yes,
Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Ah, yes.
Nice. So this particular sloka, is it familiar to anyone?
I used to hear daily, Prabhuji, but I can't recitate that. This thing is not coming for me. But I can understand the meaning. But what it says means at the time of death, when we are unable to our voice, though we cannot able to speak, our health is not good.
Right.
Then what it says means at that time when I am unable to think about you because of my health issues, because of my memory power and all, at that time you must make me to remember. That is the essence of this stotra. I think so, sir. Prabhuji, is it right?
Yes.
Also, Prabhuji, he said, the Kulasekara says, it's better for me to die now while I'm able to chant and
Because when
service,
my throat
rather
is
than-
not able to speak, say Govinda or Krishna at the time of death. Because while
Right.
saying Govinda or Krishna at the time of death, that this thing will, what you say, that there will be no birth or death. The cycle
Right.
of birth or death will not be coming, it seems.
So basically, you are right. You are right, and Padma Mataji is also right. Basically, King Kulasekara is saying, right now I am hale and healthy. I am able to remember and I am able to utter the Lord's name, holy name. But I never know when I am on the deathbed. We have seen many old people, right, who are about to die. So, what is your experience of seeing them? What kind of
We
situation?
should
They are
we
unable
should
to
we
talk.
should attain the death when our hands and hand we should have a smooth death.
Right.
We should not get into the bedridden thing. That was we are praying. Prabhuji. We
And
should
at the
not
time
depend
of-
on anyone else.
At the time of death, Prabhu, people can't talk. They are not in their senses. Some even
They
go
are
to
not in sense.
coma. They even go into coma. So they'll not be in a position to remember Krishna. That's
Yeah.
why Kulasekara says, while I'm now in this state, when I'm able to do your devotional service and chant, better for me to leave my body at this time.
Yeah.
That's what he said. That's what I remember, Prabhuji.
Exactly, right? So, at that
So-
time, especially when somebody is old on the deathbed, they cannot even think about Krishna.
Yeah.
So, they will be haunted by all the other unwanted things which happened in their past, with their past experiences in this life and in the previous life as well. So, that's what comes to our mind.
Prabhu, there's one song in Tamil. My father used to sing, அப்போதைக்கு இப்போதை சொல்லி வைத்தேன் என்னை ஆண்டருள்வாய் ஹரி நாராயணா.
Right.
So I'll not be able to speak. My senses will not be in proper order.
Yeah.
So protect me. அப்போதைக்கு இப்போதை I'm requesting you, please protect me at the time of death. I'll not be able to remember you. I'll not be able to think of you. So protect me during the time of death.
Right.
So
So, basically,
there's one song like that.
Yeah, so in Sanatana Dharma, emphasis is given on how we are actually approaching death, which means how prepared are we to face death. See, typically, I was just giving an analogy of in our childhood days, writing some of the examinations, right? So, whenever we are quite well prepared, when we know the subject matter nicely, and we are so confident of the questions that might come up in the exam, then we boldly go and face the examination. As against when we are weakly prepared and not so good in terms of our frame of mind, then we won't be able to face the examination properly. Similarly, when we have this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and when we become Krishna conscious, when we always chant the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So when we are in that state of mind, then there is no fear for such a person. Right? So that is the essence of somebody who is actually boldly facing death. So the life lesson for us from this, so we all know when we were born,
Huh?
right? But none of us know when we are going to die. Death can come at any moment. There is no guarantee that everybody will die at the age of 100. Right? So we are finding in this modern age with so many medical technological developments and so on, which our scientists and medical field claim, but still people die at quite an early age. Even like children, they die with cancer. Young people who are working or studying in college, they study out of cardiac arrest. They die out of cardiac arrest. So there is no guarantee whatsoever that one can live forever, at least until 100 years. There is no guarantee. Life is so uncertain, right? At least in our college and school days. So whenever we need to face an examination, we will be clearly given a date. Your examination will be between 20th March to 20th April, isn't it? But
Yes, Prabhu.
unfortunately, death can come at any moment, which means the exam date is not given. And if we are not prepared, all the more it is going to be much more difficult. Right? So that's why we see when people die, at the moment they die, you can clearly see how they are completely in fear. Right? So you typically find a person who is gasping for breath, whose eyes are half closed and half open, and they are in complete fear, right? Because when we are not Krishna conscious, when we are always conscious about how I can be happy in this material life, then death is going to be quite a painful thing, because we need to take rebirth again in a different body, right? So whatever state of consciousness we are in, it is going to be what is going to decide our next birth. So that's why the scripture, and especially Bhagavad Gita, is giving so much of emphasis on how one need to be prepared to face this final moment of life. And the reason for that is, Krishna is saying in this verse, 6th verse of chapter 8. Can one of you read the translation?
Screen is not shown, Prabhu.
Is it? Okay. Can you see now?
Yes, Prabhu.
I'll read, Prabhuji.
Yam
Yam
va
vapi smaran bhavam tyakti ante kevalam kalevaram tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Thank you, Prabhuji. Pranams.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Say, for example, during our life, how much of time do we remember Krishna? As against remembering our near and dear ones, whether it is our wife or children, mother, father, relatives, nation, our pet dog. There are so many things that we can remember at the time of death, isn't it? It all depends on what we are thinking and what we are acting during our life. Right? So, say we are always thinking of our pet dog in life. Then, unfortunately, at the time of our death, we will only remember that dog. And nature will reward us in our next life a body of a dog, because we are so much attached to that dog. So this is what happened to the famous king by the name King Bharata. This story comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, where the king, he was such a great devotee, he went to the forest, he wanted to do tapasya. Unfortunately, he became attached to a deer, a small little deer. A hunter came and he killed the small little deer's mother and father. So the deer became an orphan, and the king Bharata, he started taking care of the deer. So he went to the forest in order to do tapasya, remember the Lord, and finally think about the Lord at the time of death. That was his plan. But unfortunately, he became so attached to the deer, so much so that whenever the deer would eat, the king also would eat food. Whenever the deer would sleep, he would hug the deer and he would sleep along with the deer. So he became so attached to the deer that at the time of death, he was only remembering the deer. So what was his next life?
On a
deer.
deer.
A
He
deer,
became a
deer.
deer.
Yeah,
Was
so he
born
was
as a
born.
deer.
He
Yeah.
took the form of a deer.
Yes. So that is the problem when we are not prepared for this final examination. The problem is that we don't think about death. We think that we're not going to die anytime soon. We have so much of life to enjoy. This life is only for enjoyment, right? So that's the conception that we are all living in. Unfortunately, with the so-called Western civilization, we have totally lost our Indian culture, and we are only doing these 4 things which animals also do: eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. We don't have any idea whatsoever about what is there after death. But Krishna clearly says, whatever state of mind that you quit your body with, that you will attain in the next life. So the life lesson for us, while we are living in this life, we are actually creating our next life as well. We can clearly see it doesn't require any astrology. Now, often we find people going to astrologer, wanting to ask how my life will be, right? But especially when it comes to our next life, we can clearly say on our own, just by looking at our present life, how Krishna consciously were we living this life, as against how materialistic we were. So based on that, we can clearly identify what our next life is going to be. Antakale chamamyeva. So somebody can read this as well.
Can I, Prabhuji?
Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna. Antakale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram yaha prayati samadbhavam yati nastye atra samsayaha. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
What a clear statement given by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. If you can actually think of Krishna, remember only Krishna at the time of death, then you go to the Vaikuntha planet. You go back home to Krishna's place. You need not have to take birth again in this material world. Now, this is so much easier said than done. You were saying that the person is praying to that I am now remembering you. I am in good state of mind. So I have told your name now because I don't know whether I will be able to remember you at the time of death. So something like that, right? So which is very true. As long as we have a hale and healthy body, we are able to remember the Lord, then we need to use our life to remember Him more and more. Right? So we are all having this Bhagavad Gita class, 1 hour's class. So you all are remembering Krishna or Krishna's instructions during this 1 hour. Say, for example, in my case, if you see, I am taking this class, but I am also doing some preparatory work in order to give this class. Probably for 3 hours time, I may be remembering Krishna only. I am involved in Krishna conscious activity. So like this, in our life, when we can do activities which will make us remember Krishna, whether it is chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra or reading Bhagavad Gita or visiting some of these ISKCON temples or any Krishna temple or working and giving some money for Krishna, right? Or preparing food and offering bhoga to Lord Krishna. So all these activities make us remember Krishna more and more. If you go to YouTube, you can find n number of kirtans. You just put ISKCON Kirtan and you will get thousands and thousands of kirtans, all wonderful tunes of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you constantly hear those kirtans during the daytime in your house, that will give you a lot of remembrance of Krishna. So if somebody is always remembering Krishna in one way or other, and he has molded his life in such a way that by all possible means he will only remember Krishna, then it is 100% guaranteed that he will only remember Krishna at the time of death. In case we are not performing this process, if we are not practicing this in this life, then it is very, very difficult to remember Krishna at the time of death. That remembrance will not come so easily unless we are trained. We always require training for everything, isn't it? So without the training in this life, how can we think of Krishna at the time of death? So Krishna is giving the formula, and subsequently, so he is also going to say in Bhagavad Gita how one can remember Krishna at the time of death. There are three aspects here: your mental aspect, your physical aspect, and intellectual aspect. Mental aspect, think of the form of Krishna by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Say you are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and in front of you, you have a nice photo of Radha Krishna. You just meditate on Radha Krishna and you keep chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. By that, you can actually remember the Lord on a mental platform. On a physical platform, you can do your prescribed duty, you can do some physical seva, devotional service, like chanting, like listening to kirtans, like performing boga, so many activities. So by physical activities, you can actually remember Krishna. And finally, by intellectual aspect, by reading about Krishna, by understanding the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita. So by all these means, by intellectual means, we'll be able to remember Krishna as well. Right? So remembering Krishna is not very difficult. So death is the final exam. And when should we prepare? Start preparing. It should be now. We cannot say that, Prabhu, once I reach my senior citizenship age, above 60, 70, then I will chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, then I will start remembering Krishna. You cannot say whether you will live for 60 years. So, better start now. And what is the syllabus? Syllabus is nothing but Bhagavad Gita. Whatever Krishna spoke in Bhagavad Gita, if you can understand and practice in life, then that is like preparing for your final examination. How to prepare? By chanting, by reading Bhagavad Gita, by associating with devotees, which is very important. You cannot remember Krishna on your own. You always require association of like-minded devotees who will always prompt you to remember Krishna. Even in case somebody forgets Krishna, when you have devotee around you, that devotee will definitely come and make you remember Krishna again. And what is the freedom? What is the result when somebody does all this? He is freed from repeated cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. And for how long should we actually be remembering Krishna? Actually speaking, it is 24 hours. But it may not be possible for us right now. Let's make a small beginning. Let's chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, either 1 round or 2 rounds or 3 rounds or whatever it is possible for you. Let's take a baby step towards remembering Krishna all the time. Right? So, life is a preparation and death is the examination. And the question may arise, why we need to attain the Supreme Lord? I was mentioning briefly. What was the reason that I told that we should remember Krishna and go back to Krishna Loka? What is the reason that I gave? Anybody remembers?
We must be free from all these four stages in material life.
Sorry?
We must be free of all these four stages of material life.
Okay. So we should be free from this material conception of life.
So that we can go back to Godhead, Prabhuji.
Okay. So what happens when we go back to Godhead?
There will
We'll
be no
serve
birth and
Krishna
death. We'll be serving the Lord.
Right. So we'll be happily serving the Lord. We don't have to again come back to this material world. Krishna is saying in this verse, after attaining me, the great souls never return to this material world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Right? So we don't have to again come back to this material world. Sorry, just give me a second. Somebody is knocking the door. I will just come back in a minute. Sorry. Able to hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right. So this material world is actually compared to a place which is filled with dukkha and ashashvatam. A place full of miseries, and that place which is not permanent. Right? But the Lord's abode or Vaikuntha, it doesn't have any misery at all. And the place is also completely permanent. You don't have to again come back to this material world. So that's why Krishna is recommending why you need to suffer in this temporary world. Come back to my place and you will not have any suffering at all. You won't have any birth, death, old age or disease. You can be completely happy all the time. So that's the recommendation from Supreme Lord Krishna. But unfortunately, we don't want to come back again to this material world. We don't want to again go back to the Lord's abode. We are very happy in this material world. I will tell one very nice story that happened in the age-old times. Narada Muni, as you all know, he is very famous for going around the three worlds with his veena, and he tries to preach Krishna consciousness. He always chants the Supreme Lord's name, and he carries the message of Lord Krishna all around the three worlds. So he once went to a place and he met a person by name Kailash. So this person Kailash, he was a materialistic person, completely attached to material life. So Narada Muni went and gave an option. Oh Kailash, why you want to be here in this material world? Come with me. I will take you and you can permanently go to Vaikuntha. I will give you a free ticket to Vaikuntha. You come with me. Then this Kailash said, oh Swamiji, you know, I got recently married. How can I leave my wife all alone? Huh? So just give me some time. We will soon have children. So let me have an enjoyment in this family life for some time, and I will definitely come back to you once I am settled. So Narada Muni thought, okay, I will give some time to him. So he went back. After a few years, he came back again. So then he saw this person, Kailash, he got married and he had a couple of children. And he went and approached Kailash again. He said, can you come now? you are married, you have a wife and you also have a children. Why don't you come now with me? I will take you to Vaikuntha. Then Kailash said, no, Swamiji, please be considerate. No, my children are so small. They require care. I need to take care of them, take them to school, give them education, settle them well in life. So I can't come now. You please come back after some time. So Narada Muni went back after a few years. He again remembered Kailash. He came back again. So this time, Kailash's sons and daughters, they became old and they got married. Kailash became old. Now Narada Muni said, now you are old enough. Let's go. You come with me and I will take you to Vaikuntha. Now Kailash said, oh, Swamiji, you are not married, so you are not able to understand my situation. You are a sannyasi or you are a brahmachari. I am married and my children are actually getting married and I need to settle them nicely. They will have their own children. I need to give them support. So you please come back after a few years. I am not willing to come now. So Narada Muni went back. By the time Kailash's children got married, they had their own children. Kailash became a grandfather. And finally, when Narada Muni came back after some time, to his surprise, he saw that Kailash was no more. In their house, they only had a big photo framed structure where you could see Kailash, which means that Kailash died. So Narada Muni was he was feeling so bad that, here was a conditioned soul, Kailash, whom he tried his best to make him Krishna conscious. He wanted to give Krishna to Kailash, but he was not willing to take and he died. And Narada Muni, with a sad face, he was going around the house, and at the backyard of the house, Narada Muni saw a big snake. And Narada Muni went close to that snake, and as soon as he went close, the snake started to speak. Narada Muni could understand the snake's language. The snake was none other than Kailash. This person, he died, and in the next life, he became a snake. And Narada Muni was asking, why are you still in this place? Then the snake said, Narada Muni, my children, they are all quite immature. They don't know how to handle our family property. I have hidden a lot of treasure at the back of this house. So I am actually remaining here so that I can take care of the jewels and all the valuables that are hidden here, because I love my family so much. Then Narada Muni, he got fed up. So he went straight to the children of Kailash, and then he told them, you please come out. At the back of your house, there is a big python lying there. You go and hit and kill the python because it's going to cause disturbance. So the children, they took big sticks. They went behind the house and they started to whack. They gave nice whacking to the snake, which is none other than their own father in the previous life. So the snake started to shout, saying that, come on, don't do this, I am your father. Obviously, the children, they could not hear snake speaking, so they continued to hit, and finally the snake died. When the snake was about to die, it actually prayed to Narada Muni that, please take me with you. Now I don't want to remain in this place. I am fed up of this material life. I thought that these people are my own family members, my own children, so I wanted to protect them. But unfortunately, they are beating me because they don't know that I was their father. So Kailash finally had that realization, right? So Narada Muni eventually took Kailash and he went to Vaikuntha Loka. So there is wonderful learning for us from this story, because we are also attached to so many temporary things. Temporary house, to our family, to our friends, our relative, our possessions. We know that we are going to face that final moment of life when we will leave everything and we will go empty-handed. We are not going to take anything with us, right? So when we have that understanding, then we need to be practicing what Krishna is suggesting here, right? So Krishna is saying, Antakale chamam eva smaran muktva kalevaram. So basically, when we are remembering Krishna at the time of death, then we can surpass the repeated cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. We need not again come back to this material world and suffer. So that is what we need to be doing. We should not be leading a life like Kailash, leaving till the last moment, only leading a materialistic life, not caring about Krishna, not caring about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So that is not what we are supposed to be doing. And further, in the 19th sloka, Krishna is talking about why this place is temporary. Because in every Brahma's day, so all the living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are all helplessly annihilated. So here Krishna is talking about the concept of pralaya, or devastation. So in this Vedic Hare Krishna. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
So in the Vedic knowledge, we understand that this entire universe, it gets created at the time of Brahma's day, and when Brahma's night comes, it gets annihilated. So basically, all of us would get annihilated, and we would actually go into Lord Vishnu's body. So these are all mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So that is why we are temporary. We may take birth again in the next life, but ultimately, this material world is also temporary. At some point, after millions of years, this is also going to get devastated, and we all will again take birth in some other universe. So these are all mentioned in the scriptures, right? So that's why Krishna is saying, don't waste your time in this temporary material world. Because as I was mentioning, the real problems of life, birth, death, old age, and disease, we should not be repeating the cycle of repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. We need to cross this repeated cycle and go back to Krishna's place. So the life lesson for us, temporary cessation of headache is not bliss. Imagine I'm having headache and I take a paracetamol pill and I get cured. But is that going to give me permanent relief? Probably not, because next day I may get some other problem, some other medical issue, right? So as long as we have this material body, we are bound to get suffering in one form or other, right? So just like, for example, I had my own experience. So I wanted to take this Bhagavad Gita classes continuously, but 2 weeks back I had a problem at home where we had a major power outage. Somehow I managed to conduct the class, but then today, out of nowhere, my laptop crashed, and I also had one more spare laptop, and that spare laptop as well had a battery failure. So I didn't know literally what to do, and somehow I took my wife's laptop and transferred all the necessary material to this laptop, and here I am taking this class. And on my temporary laptop, I don't have video. Somehow the camera got screwed up, so I am managing with the mobile device as well, right? So we never know what kind of problems we will face We may be thinking that life will go smooth, but not necessarily. It all depends on our past karma. If we have done a lot of bad karma, we are bound to suffer. We cannot think that we will remain in this world forever. If we are thinking like that, then we are fool number one. Come to the reality. The sooner that we come to the reality, better it is for us. Right? Like how Arjuna was given this teaching by Krishna. Why are you lamenting for this temporary material body? We are not this body, we are the spirit soul. We need to come to that understanding soon. That's why Bhagavad Gita is so essential for all of us. Otherwise, we will again take birth again in this material world and suffer. Krishna does not want us to suffer. Right? So let's not be overwhelmed by this temporary problem in this life. Let's try to solve our problem permanently. That is the life lesson that we all need. So pure devotion is the best. And what does a devotee, where does the devotee attain? Can someone read this translation?
And that which the Vedanta describes as unmanifest and infallible, that which is unknown as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode.
Yeah. So Krishna is clearly describing the nature of his place, nature of his abode. Right? The Vedantis, they describe it as unmanifest and infallible. Infallible means that which is not going to be, that which is not going to get devastated. Right? And that is a supreme destination. And when we reach that place, we don't have to come back again. So that is the place where we need to target and reach. Not that stupidly we try to solve our problems temporarily, as the scientists are doing. They are trying to go to Moon planet or Mars planet or so many other planets, thinking that their life will be better in that planet. So these are all foolish thoughts. We need to take to the process of Krishna consciousness from Bhagavad Gita and try to fix our goal. Our goal should be to reach the spiritual world, not roam here and there in this material world. That is not the real solution for us. Right? So in this chapter, Krishna is also speaking about what happens to the yogis, typically the dhyana yogis. Right? Dhyana yogis, they practice so perfectly for thousands of years, and at some point they bring their life fare from different parts of the body. They bring their life fare to top of their head, top of their skull, and they release that life hair through this opening. Right? When somebody does that, and he does that at the daytime during Uttarayana. Uttarayana is where sun is in the north. So when a yogi is able to do that, then he will never come back again to this material world. Whereas when a yogi passes away at night or during Dakshinayana, when sun is in south, then he will only reach moon planet. So it is such a difficult process for a yogi. One is to practice it for thousands of years and finally to make it perfect at the time of death. So it is very, very difficult. But for a devotee, because he is always Krishna conscious, always thinking about Krishna, chanting his name, rendering service to him, because he is always in remembrance of Krishna, time of death does not matter. So whether somebody leaves during the night time or daytime, if he is a devotee, he will definitely go back to Krishna. There is no doubt at all. Right? So that is also emphasized in this chapter. And how I can remember Krishna throughout my life? so that I can attain perfection at the time of death by following different processes. Shravanam, hearing Krishna, Kirtanam, chanting Krishna's name, Smaranam, remembering Krishna, Padasevanam, rendering service to Krishna, going to temples, Archanam, worshipping Krishna at our home. You all can have a photo of Krishna, perform small little arati every day, have a dhupa, have a deepa, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, sing in Hare Krishna tunes, and you can perform nice arati every day. So by that you can actually do Archanam. Vandanam, praying to Lord every day. After taking bath, we can take darshan of Krishna in our house and we can pray to him sincerely. Oh Krishna, please make me Krishna conscious. Please ensure that I always remember you. That can be a small little prayer. So that is Vandanam. Dasyam, becoming a servant of Krishna. Right? Like Hanuman. Hanuman was doing a lot of service for Lord Rama. Similarly, we can also become servant of Krishna. Sakyam, becoming a friend of Krishna. Just like Arjun. Arjun was a dearmost friend of Krishna. And finally, Atma Nivedanam, which means complete surrender. When somebody can completely surrender himself to Krishna and his instructions, then that is the perfection of life. So these are the different processes of bhakti. When we do all this during our life, then there is every chance that we will be remembering Krishna at the time of death. If we are not doing these, then it is very, very difficult to remember Krishna. So bhakti actually starts with our tongue. What is our tongue going to be used for? Used for chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So like that we can go on and on at least 108 times. So when we are using our tongue to chant Krishna's holy names, right? So that is how we are actually purifying our senses. And before we chant this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, it is auspicious to chant Panchatattva mantra, which is nothing but the mantra related to Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What is that mantra called? Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So this is called Panchatattva mantra. Before chanting your Hare Krishna Mahamantra, I request you to chant this Panchatattva mantra 3 times. And then you start your round. Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Right? So, in spite of so many faults in this age of Kali Yuga, but still there is one good quality. Everything else is bad. No, we are short-lived, we have manda buddhi, we are misfortunate, we are miserable, we cannot remember anything, but still there is one good quality. What is that good quality?
Chanting.
Kirtana, yeah, chanting.
Harinam Sangeetam.
Yes. No.
Kirtanadhyeva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Parampraja. Merely by chanting this holy name of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, one can become free from material bondage and promoted to Krishna's place. Right? So this we need to remember. And this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is also mentioned elsewhere in other Upanishads also. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashakam Namnam Kali Kalmashanashanam Atap Parataropayah Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. It is mentioned that this Mahamantra will destroy all inauspiciousness of the age of Kali. This is the conclusion of all the Vedas. You study all the Vedas. What is the conclusion of Vedas? Nama Sankirtanam. Right? So that is why chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra is recommended. So the life lesson for us, let's decide that we chant at least minimum of 1 round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra daily. I hope that most of you are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. In
Yes,
case if you are not, I fall at your feet and I beg you, please chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah,
That,
chanting, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
yeah. That will give you the remembrance of Krishna at the moment of death. Right? Please start chanting. So start planning for your journey back home, back to Godhead today. We all do so many plannings, right? Especially when our kids have holidays, we plan and take our kids to some hill station or some nice scenic location, right? We do a lot of planning, and we plan for our retirement. We plan for our daughter's marriage. So many things we plan. But have we ever planned for facing the last moment of life? Did any of us plan for that?
No.
If we have not planned, better start it today. Right? Because, as I said, it is very difficult to remember Krishna at the last moment of life unless we have proper planning during our life. So let's not waste our life with merely eating, mating, sleeping, and defending, and let's mold our life so that we can be Krishna conscious. So with that, I will come to the end of the session. So the essence of today's session is that we all know what is the final examination. The final examination is at the time of death, the last moment of life. That determines what will be our next life. If we remember Krishna, then we go back to him. If we don't remember Krishna, then we again take birth into this material world. As simple as that. So let's take this Bhagavad Gita knowledge seriously, especially the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Also, it is recommended that whenever our close relatives or friends, they pass away, we go to their home and take Bhagavad Gita copy with you, recite chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. That will give lot of assurance for the soul that passed away. Right? So 8th chapter is very, very important for us in order to fix our goal, in order to be fixed up in our goal. Right? So those are some of my realizations. Any questions or comments?
Prabhuji, there is one question. Bhagavad Gita has got 18 chapters, and 18 days the war happened. Was it coincidental? Both are 18s?
I don't think Krishna and Arjuna, they actually spoke Bhagavad Gita in chapters. It was just a conversation, and it was only later that the Acharyas split that into 18 chapters. It is just a coincidence.
Achha. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Somebody told me when somebody passes away, when someone leaves the body in the family or anywhere, read the 3rd chapter. You're saying read the 8th chapter, just don't want to understand.
Right. So actually, I have heard devotees, my mentor used to say that we need to recite the 2nd chapter. We can also recite the 3rd chapter, 8th chapter, and 9th chapter. So these 4 chapters are very important. Of
Okay,
these
thank you.
4 chapters, 8th chapter is the most important because that is where the destination of the soul is mentioned.
Okay,
Prabhuji,
okay.
please repeat what are these chapters? 3rd, 8th, and 9th.
2nd, 3rd, 8th, 9th.
2nd, 3rd, 8th, and 9th.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
If you have time, then you can recite all 4 chapters. If not, at least recite 8th chapter.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else has any questions? Yes, Usha Mataji, you have any question?
No, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
No, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions?
No, Prabhuji.
No, Prabhuji.
Okay, so thank you so much. Let's meet again tomorrow. Tomorrow is an interesting chapter on the most confidential knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, which is very, very important. So let's meet up again tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Until then, have a nice Krishna day. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Prabhuji.
Prabhu, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.